We're going to really start to weave or get some thicker thread to weave your already deep connection to beautiful wild places, what one student calls the beautiful wild of the world. I used to work at the Fairfield Osborne Preserve, and one, 8-year-old came back and his eyes were so big and he said, "I never get to be in the beautiful wild of the world." So, the beautiful wild of the world is our greatest companion and our greatest teacher and our best friend. And we're going to spend some time there. And I have a request before we start to talk about that. If you're wearing a watch right now, that you just take it off and turn it upside down on the table, because one of the things that Gwen likes to remind us when we're in the beautiful wild of the world, we want to have a sense of timelessness there. And if you have a phone someplace, if you turn it off and put it out of sight, just for a little bit. Watches and phones are going to take just a momentary pause in our at least visual awareness. Whenever I take my watch off, my wrist just goes, You might have noticed we put a little bit of naturalist bling on your table, in your spot. And one of those things is going to be your constant companion through this class. And you don't have to get it out now. You've probably already looked at it. But this is your field notebook. And I want to tell you that it's your very own. I labeled it so that when I find yours, because you accidentally left it here, I'll put it in your file folder in the file box and you'll know where it is. And the paper is waterproof. The pen writes in the rain, because believe it or not, there will be days when you show up for training where we come here early to crank up the wood stove and everybody's wearing their rain gear, which I'm so looking forward to, I can't tell you. I would recommend that you find yourself a pencil with a non-fossilized eraser. I don't know what it is about pencils these days, but it seems like the eraser's fossilized within a day of you buying it. And Lauren has the best pencil, and she'll tell you all about it, and maybe she has stock in that company. Anyway, find yourself a pencil that you like, and maybe even a little bit of an eraser, and stick it in here. And if you, so one of your assignments for our whole class together, and maybe you already do this, and maybe it will continue as a practice for you after the class is over, is bring your field journal every day, your field notebook, every course meeting. And I'm going to walk you through the classic way of keeping a field notebook. And then I'm going to show you some more creative ways to keep a field notebook. And I want you to find the way that works best for you, but keeping some of the classic strategies alive in your notebook. So I thought that I'd just share. I love going beautiful wild places, some of which I've never been before. And I was also trained as a botanist and ethnobotanist, and I'll see a plant and I'll just know that I recognize it and I know something about it, and I have a question, or I'll see a lizard, maybe a Joshua tree that I've never seen before, and I'm not a picture taker, so I'll just jot down, I carry something in my pocket and I'll just jot down questions or a little description so that I can look it up later. And for me, that's the best use, because by the time I get home, I've totally forgotten about whatever question it was that I had. And that's how I started to do this practice. So in classic terms, this is how to keep a field notebook, and I think I put a little slip of paper that looks an awful lot like this in your notebook last night, didn't I?
Yeah. Yes.
I have a reputation for just being fiendishly over-organized. Can I borrow this for a sec, Teresa? There's a sweet little pocket right in the front behind where the pens and pencil goes, and you can just slip that back there while you're getting the hang of how to keep a field notebook. Little crib notes for you. That piece of paper, not waterproof. So what do? Each day, you don't have to put your name because your name's already on that thing, but we want the date and the time. Classic style is to use military time. And I work for the government, and I can't remember how military time works. I always have to count it in my head. So I don't use military time because it doesn't work for me. And since this is your personal notebook, it has to work for you. If military time works for you, you can. But if you're talking to somebody who's classically trained, that's what they're going to tell you. If you're somewhere for a long time, if you're making an extended observation, say you're really early in the morning, like at dawn, and you're listening to and watching the birds become active. You might want to have an arrival time and a departure time. And the arrival time might be a number, it also might be 20 minutes before sunrise, because the time per se doesn't always give you enough information. When you're out in nature, there are bigger measures of time than just what the clock says. In fact, nature doesn't care about this at all. But, twilight or dawn or high noon. Location. So this page, which was in your reading, so you might recognize it, this person was in a place that needed a lot of explanation about how to get there. And the reason that you want to have enough information, especially if you're making an observation that seems notable, is, think of a reason why you want to have really good directions. And after you've thought of it, show me your pinky and wave your pinky at me if you have an idea. Why would you want good directions? And on the count of 3, everybody give me an answer. 1, 2, 3. So you could find it again, or you could tell someone else how to find it. Exactly. So as you learn Bouverie, early on, your location is probably going to be Bouverie, right? Or the creek. But as you get to know this piece of land that's going to become an intimate partner of yours, you're going to know the trail junction or the grove of redwood trees or the specific oak out in the grassland. You're going to know. So as you get to know Bouverie, your location is going to get more and more refined. I'm new here, but I know that there's a place at a trail junction along the canyon trail where the giant trillium bloom. And so when it's time of year to go look for the giant trillium, I know to go there. And after a while, that'll just become emblazoned on your heart and in your mind. But for now, this helps. This is helpful. The weather. What are the weather conditions? You'll notice I'm kind of a weather fiend. So when I send you, it's weird that I'm standing behind you, sorry. When I send you a heads up, we're meeting tomorrow, I'll always include the National Weather Service NOAA forecast. That's not what this is. This is you looking around, it feels like it's kind of, it's 65 and it's a little bit overcast and it's super still, there's no wind. It's that kind of weather, it's your immediate weather. Habitat. What general kind of habitat? Am I in the woods? Am I in the chaparral? You'll learn about that if you don't know. Am I in the grassland? Am I along the creek? Am I in the tide pools. We don't have tide pools at Bouverie, at least not yet, but we might someday. Species list. So classically, when you're recording species that you're seeing, the naturalists underline the Latin names. And I had you do a little bit of reading about why we use Latin names so that we can be sure what we're communicating about. Latin names. I don't know the Latin names of everything. We definitely don't use the Latin names when we're talking to 8-year-olds. In fact, we try not to use names some. Was it in the reading that Barry Lopez said that the smallest room you can open for someone is by telling them the name? We want to open the biggest room for our learners and ourselves. So I actually don't use Latin names often, unless I'm being a super botany nerd, but if I see a species that I'm interested in, I'll underline it, especially if I need to look it up later because I don't really remember that much about it. Notes, any notes? This is loud. You can use this in the field when you're out in the field with Jeannie or with Gwen or with Joe Mueller or David Herlocker, or, something might pique your interest that you don't want to forget. That's a good place to note it. And then, for me, it's at the bottom, but it's really at the top, and this is what started me on the journey of keeping a little notebook, is my questions, because when I'm out there, questions are just coming up all the time, and it's hard for me to let go unless I can write the question down and know that I captured it, and then I'm ready to move on, confident that I can look it up later if I want to. So, that's classic. And here's a few different models of what a field notebook might look like. This is the classic model. No judgment, just this is how some people like to keep their field notebook. This is from a younger learner, right there. And here's another way to keep your field notebook. There'll be people in this class who have colored pencils and want to draw things into their field notebook. Classic is to have all the written information on the leaf that's on the left side, and then reserve the right side for illustrations and drawings of species that you encounter. You don't have to do that. The take-home message is, this is your thing for you to use. Use it in the field, bring it every day, and at least once a day when you're here, make some observations. Take some observations, make some notes. Questions, comments? Are you willing to give this a try? Yes. Okay. So we're going to start right now. Here's what's going to happen. You and your field notebook and nothing else, in a moment. You don't need your backpack, you don't need your water bottle, you're not going to be there that long. You're going to stroll out this way. You're going to find a place to hang out. You're going to find that place in 1 minute or less. You're going to keep your eyes and ears really open because there's a pile of rocks back there where there's a beautiful rattlesnake and she likes to be there. So you don't want to sit down or put your hands or feet any place where you're not sure. You're going to go out somewhere within the boundaries of a 1 minute walk this way. For future reference, the reason it says restricted area, no entry unless authorized, is all of that part of the preserve where all the buildings are that way, those are off limits to volunteers and trainees. We have resident staff and we ask that you not go that way. So we won't go out that way, we'll go out that way. And you're going to have a timeless amount, I'll keep the time, a timeless amount of solo time with your field journal, and you're going to make your very first observation in there. And after you've finished you just sit there. Just sit there and be and see what shows up, internally and externally. I'll ring the bell loud. It'll be a 1-minute warning to migrate back here. Welcome back. How was your field time? Was it awesome, but could have been way longer, or meh, or I just made a mistake? This is not a good plan. One of our key, what did we call it? Our key concepts, the very first one for today is to give you the sense that you're in the right place with the right people. And when I look in your eyes, I'm like, yeah, that's feeling true. So maybe take a moment with your neighbor and just share, just for a moment, what was your spot like? What did you see there? Compare what your first page of your field notebook looks like. We're going to give you 30 seconds each, starting now. Just when I was at Fairfield Osborne Preserve, at the end of each field day, we would sit down, all the naturalists and I would sit down, and everybody would share their nugget of the day. And sometimes it was a natural history observation, often it was a child natural history observation. And then I would ask that they take that nugget home and tell it to somebody in their life who didn't get to spend a day out on the land. So that's another hidden gift of your field notebook, is it's a repository for nuggets and stories. And I was kind of walking around and listening and watching, and one of the things that we know in education is that people learn when they listen to stories, not facts so much, although facts are great in stories. But I watched you talk about, like, people were gesturing and using their body to tell about their experience. So you've already taught a little mini nature lesson. You've already done it, check it off, you're done, you're ready to do your next one. And your field notebook is going to be a way for you, a little way for you to capture those things that capture your interest and hold your stories. Okay. Speaking of stories, we still have a few more groups from whom to hear, and I think we finished with Team 10. Is that true? So Team 9 is on deck.
This is Michael Knappman, and he lives in Katani. And he is a retired physician's assistant. And what did you do before that?
Vagabond.
A vagabond. Traveled a lot. And I found out we had something in common because we are both take care of grandchildren, almost the same age, and like to explore nature with them. He grew up in the Mojave Desert area and attributes his love for nature by having lots of space to explore and just be out there and look at what's there. And in Sacramento, thank you. Yeah, he's moved around a lot, or at least, but he's a native Californian. And what else did I forget? This is cool, the cool fact about him. He lived in Japan to teach English for 5 years. And that's a really great experience to have. Michael.
Doris Klein. She lives in Napa, and she has been a 4th grade teacher there. She's retired 6 or 7 years now, right? And she knows about Bouverie because she came here a lot as a teacher, bringing her kids here. And so she knows the ropes, at least from that side of that perspective. Doris is a California native. She grew up in the East Bay in El Sobrante. And one of the cool things is, and this is something we discussed that we have in common, is that growing up, we were lucky that we had a nature connection and that we lived in a place where we just took off. And then, in my case, my mother would whistle and we'd come back at the end of the day. So we had a lot of exploration as a kid, and talking to her kids do the same with her grandkids. And so she has a full-time, well, almost full-time chore going over to San Rafael area to take care of her grandkids 3 days a week. But she also mentioned an interesting experience she had just several weeks ago. Just this last weekend, one of her kids owned some property next to Sequoia Park down by Fresno. And it was a big family gathering, 30 people or something. And the first thing the kids went out and explored, and they found a dead cow. And not only that, but they found some bears coming to feed on the cow. Not one, but 3 or 4 bears. And then there was a couple tarantulas, and so it was an intense nature connection experience. Oh, rattlesnakes, yeah. It was just the start of it. I didn't hear the whole thing. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce you to Deborah Knowles. And I need notice because she's had quite a fascinating life. She was born in Washington State and grew up on a farm, then moved to the Bay Area where she spent her childhood, and then graduated from Stanford. Okay, graduated from Stanford, flew to New York, worked on Wall Street, developed her own interior design company, then flew back to LA after spending some more time on the East Coast. Flew back to LA, had her interior design there. She raised 2 boys, and I think one of the most impressive things is that both of her sons became Eagle Scouts.
One is named Derek. So.
Anyway, that's very impressive. My son got to life. He earned all the badges for Eagle Scout, but I couldn't do the interview for him, so. And she has a PhD in
Mythological studies with an emphasis in depth psychology. There you go.
Okay. So an underachiever. She's now retired and she is raising chickens. So she's learned to see the signs of, when hawks are coming, because the blue jays will get excited, and then she runs out and saves her chicken. But I'm really looking forward to hearing some of her stories on hikes, because I think she'll come up with some pretty good ones.
Thank you, Kit. First of all, I'm so impressed by your memories. I need notes. Right, this is Kit O'Neill Conver. She was born in East St. Louis, Illinois, then moved to Missouri, and then went to San Diego to go to nursing school. That was back in '76. She has been a nurse and a nurse practitioner for 42 years and is in the process of retiring. She hasn't quite pulled it off. Most recently, she is teaching at Santa Rosa Junior College, and she's subbing now that she's officially retired. One of the interesting things, plus 3 children who sound very accomplished and quite happy. Congratulations, that's a big deal. She very much loves her teaching. So we have a lot of people in the medical profession here too, which is great to know if something happens out there. For those of us living in this area, when it came time, they were living in San Diego, when it came time to retire, her husband did a major research project, best place in the world to retire, answers Santa Rosa. So they came up here, and
He was right.
well, I have to agree with that. And then the other thing that I found interesting about her, one of the many other things, is that she is a member of Los Californianos, and those are the descendants of the Spanish settlers here. Even though she was born in Illinois, on her father's side, a relative had been born here, moved there, resettled, but she eventually made her way back to her ancestral grandmother.
A lost sheep that comes back to.
So I will start. This is Linda Weathers, and
Linda moved here about 13 years ago from Southern California. She and her husband moved up here. She has a daughter who still lives down in Southern California. She loves Sonoma County and all that it has to offer. She and her husband did spend time outdoors down in Southern California, but they were particularly captivated when they came up here to Sonoma County to find all this incredible open space and the accessibility of the outdoors available to them. And she found herself volunteering for an organization called Land Paths, which does outdoor education, hikes, some work with children. She did some of the outdoor work. She also, her career was as an office manager in different settings. And she ended up volunteering partially in the office down at Land Paths and partially in their field activities. And then she talked them into hiring her because she loved the organization, and she continued to work part-time inside and part-time outside. She took one of the hikes that was available to anybody who wanted to hike in Bouverie, and that piqued her interest. And she has a friend who is a docent here. So at the urging of her friend, and just because she loves the area so much and she loves to be outdoors, she decided that being a docent was what she wanted to do. So here she is, and we're glad she's here. I can forget this before. Just talk.
This is Robin Jors, yes, and she has lived in different areas around the Bay. Most recently in South Bay. Okay. Came to Sonoma County and lives in Oakmont and loves it because there's lots of activity, but she especially likes the swimming pool, and she swims every day. Good for you. She was a early childhood educator. Thank you. Early childhood educator for 40 years.
And I miss it.
And she misses it. So this is a good fit for her. And how did you hear about Bouverie? I forgot that.
Well, I knew I wanted to do some volunteer work that blended nature and children, and I was in a book group, and somebody told me about Bouverie, and I also was volunteering over at Jack London, and they told me about it.
Yeah, well, a little time has elapsed, so I remember kind of. So she was out wandering around in the wilderness. Thank you.
Climber, we were sitting out back and Gail Barron walked out, so we had just a few minutes once we got done talking to her. So it's kind of a crash course. So this is Reed, and the spelling of your name is very unique. I had to write phonetically, so I wouldn't forget. She's been in Sonoma County 40 years and is a nurse, specializing in end-of-life. Apparently we've got a few people here, which is very special work. So, and she loves the outdoors and gardening, and I knew I forgot something else. Oh, she lived in Hawaii 10 years, on Big Island. Loves to travel, and Peru is one of her favorite places. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to introduce, Laura Dedevo, yes. Laura's a California native, was raised in Merced, grew up in the, I believe, East Bay, was that right? Yes, had a long career in human resources, particularly corporate human resources. The light of her life is her two grandchildren, Abby and Henry, was it? Yeah, Abby and Henry, and her husband, who I and she totally lights up when she talks about her grandkids, and she loves nature, and we both felt some humbleness about how we don't know a lot about where we live, but we're delighted to have you guys to do it with.
Rick and his wife have been here in Sonoma County for 30 years in the town of Sonoma, and his wife has been a docent here for 4 years. And Rick is a retired philanthropist, and he recently got back from a trip with his wife from England. And his specialty is photography, yay, and especially trees.
Trees. Somebody who preceded me here mentioned that they have difficulty remembering names. I have difficulty remembering anything. And my wife will attest to that. This is Diana DeLuca, and Diana is an herbalist, teaching people like myself, sure, how to eat properly. She is a water person. She spent a lot of time in nature in the southern part of the Cascades, in the Mount Lassen area. And because she's a water person, she can't wait to get up and see the waterfall, which she's never seen here. And most importantly, she is, she tells me, in 5 weeks, going to be a grandma.
Sherry Seacrest. She's very glamorous, and she's lived in Snow for 30 years, and she's a professional photographer. And she also keeps bees. And so you were excited to take photos here, and do you like hiking and all the other areas around here, like Bartholomew Park, and things like that. And your favorite color is purple?
Yes.
Am I missing anything?
This lovely young woman is Teresa Kramer, and she is a homegrown Sonoma girl. She, when I first came up to her, I didn't know whether she was 15 or 30. So somewhere in there, she's got an old soul look to her, but beautiful too. So I'm not going to tell you how old she is. But she goes to San Jose JC right now. She's going to hopefully be an author of children's books. Her favorite type of book is fantasy. She loves to read. And she found out about Bouverie through her mom. And I want to say that if you can get your adult child to go anywhere with you, I want to say something great about you. I envy that. So she initially thought, oh yeah, I'll go Lansing. And after the orientation, she was very excited. And I can only imagine that this will have something to do or influence your writing in the future, and I hope to read it someday.
She's a retired special ed teacher, and she's been retired for 1 year. And she had a really cool story that her great aunt Toddy from New York disappeared, and all she left was a note saying she was going to the Valley of the Moon. So then Judy and her husband ended up in Mendocino, and then down here, and then she heard about the story of Bouverie, and maybe that's what happened. Maybe she was around here somewhere.
This is Melissa, and Melissa was going to be a naturalist when she finished high school. She wanted to go study that, but someone told her that all you'll be doing is collecting tickets at the gate. So she got discouraged and went up to Cal Poly and studied biology or animal science. And came back and got married. She's from around here, and she has 2 kids. And she just decided after trying to make money that she was spending so much money in daycare that she would just stay at home, and which she's been doing for a while. But she dedicates a lot of her time to her kids' school. She has 2 daughters, a daughter and son, 4th grade and 36. And now she's taking time for herself. Finally, and she's doing this as sort of as a first step towards sort of rediscovering who she is and what she wants to do, and maybe she's going to do the naturalist thing, and maybe she'll be the next biologist here. But anyway, here she is.
Good. So you're gonna take your hand out like this. Come on, take it up like this. Keep going, keep going. Back to it's so good. And we haven't even begun to scratch the waxy cuticle of the surface of the leaf of your story yet. It's just a little tiny bit, but I bet every time you're listening to somebody like, oh, I have that. I have that in common with that person. So this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, I predict. And as the staff, each of us will tell you our story and context before we're about to teach a class, so we'll tell you a little bit more about who we are and where we've come from as the class unfolds. We don't want to overwhelm you with too many new people, but some super important people. Maybe the single most important person besides yourself in your whole training journey is your mentor. And I'm curious to know, how many of you have met your mentor and could point them out in a crowded room? Okay. A few of you don't have a mentor yet because you joined us at 5 seconds before midnight of the cutoff, and we're very happy to have you. And our mentor coordinator, Linda Shepard, is kayaking in Oregon right now. So when she gets back, she'll pair you up. But we're going to have lunch shortly, and we would love for you to have lunch, if they're here, with your mentor and your little mentor team. And if your mentor isn't here, what did we decide to do about that?
We are going to share with them and commiserate about them not having.
We'll pretend. Oh yeah, Jane. Sorry.
I'm not an official mentor, but I am here for absent people. So if you don't have a mentor, I'm happy to have one for you.
Okay.
She's the emergency backup mentor.
Can I recruit Jane and Sharon and Pat to be lunch mentors? Is that an okay thing? Okay, great. So we're going to tell you who your mentors are. If you don't know already, Dave's just going to let you know, and we'll assign you to a substitute mentor if your mentor isn't here.
Rather than reading the list, what I'm going to do is, we have this wonderful list here, and most of you already know your mentors and can pick them out of the crowd. And I'm going to take this list and walk over here and put it there. So if you're concerned, if you don't know, that's where to look. And when you go to lunch, and I think we're going to be leaving just a few minutes early for lunch. When you go to lunch, just to recall, don't go that way. Restricted area. The sign looks like it says no entry unauthorized. When I was first here, it seemed like there must be some sort of nuclear hazard back there. There's not. It's just staff area. When you go out this way, you don't want to go way out on the trails, but there's a nice little deck here. Please do not sit up in the rocks, because you may become lunch. And I don't know what it is, and one of my goals is to figure out which cow that bell came off of, and I'll tell you about that later on, where it came from. So the reason I'm wearing this is because this is, and I think many of you I hiked with, a lot of you, didn't I? This is my usual garb when I'm out on the trail. I usually I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about all the stuff I put in the backpack, because we're going to be teaching you that later on, and you're going to be learning that from your mentors. But one of the things that I first started doing when I was here is I had these cards in here. That didn't work, because when the cards are in here, I'm over here, and I couldn't make it work. So what I did, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about now, is trail cards. Okay. So we used to give these cards to people when they were graduating as a graduation gift, which was only 22 weeks late, because we really need these cards. I walked out this morning and I was looking at those pretty orange flowers out there, and I couldn't figure out what they were. So I asked Gwen what they were. I was amazed, almost heartbroken to find out that she didn't know off the top of her head. But we have the cards, right? So I wanted to take you through the cards just a little bit to get you started. Now, my cards, I wrote my name in here with the magic marker, just so when I lay it on the ground, they come back. Your cards, have a luggage tag on it. That's a new innovation. I'd still go with a little bit of magic marker in case your eyes are as bad as mine, so you can pay attention. The first card is, and that is going to be really handy for you, is, is this map, okay? Now, what I do with the map when I'm out on my own is I stop periodically, even when I'm out hiking with other people, and even when I think I know where I am, I stop and look at the map, and I figure out where I am, and look at the map. Because the way that you can memorize the map is by referring to it frequently, rather than just looking at it now, and then recognizing that it's on your backpack. By the way, how did I stick it on my backpack? I have a beaner. It's a dollar store beaner. It doesn't actually have to support my weight. It's perfectly okay that it's purple. There's no requirements on color. It's just a cheap beaner. This one I think came from, I got it for free at some of them. So having a beaner to put on the loop that comes with your cards kind of is the one like a key ring that opens up. I use one that doesn't open up. It's the spiral kind. The kind that opens up, I had some problems with because it kept opening up and then I'd have to go look for my cards. But this might work for you. If it doesn't, there's nothing sacred about the loop. You can make it your own, okay? When I started off, I used dental floss because dental floss is the strongest string known to man. And that worked really well. This thing, oops, I'm going to run you through something here. The next page, after the map, knowing where you are is really important. Knowing what to do when something goes bad is better, okay? So the next page gives you the emergency procedures. Now we're going to have some training about the emergency procedures, and we're also going to have some firefighters, if I'm not mistaken, come from the fire station from Cal Fire across the street. And they come here every year and they go through all the trails, and they know the map. They know where all the locations are, and so they can come and get you in case things go bad. But for you to let them know, they won't know that by osmosis. You're going to have to do some stuff to let them know. We have a safety procedure that's been developed over many, many years that's been tested, and it works. And so that is written here. When you go out, you're also going to get a shorter version of this. It's on a little business card. And I think actually when I went out with some of you, I actually handed you that little business card. Did I do that with anybody here? Yeah. Handed you the business card and I said, hey, if I go buns up out on the trail and you're out there, you're 2 miles out, what do? Here, read the card. You know, so I do that when I go on a twilight hike. I let people know that we have safety procedures, and then they're ready to go if something goes bad. I don't want to scare them, but on the other hand, you know, somebody asked me when I was out on a hike, a recruitment hike, do you have a first aid kit in that thing? And the answer is yes. We've got a whole pile of them in a file cabinet in there, and you can take one with you and go hiking. You don't need to go out without a first aid kit. We've got it, okay? So that's not exactly on the trail card, but it's part of the notion of safety. Safety is a big deal. Is this making sense? Okay. That's the non-plant, non-animal stuff on the card. Then when you look at the cards, you will see that they are arranged by season. So early season, mid to late season. Oh, by the way, those wonderful orange flowers out there, we decided California fuchsia, which is a mid to late season flower up in the upper right-hand corner. So there's a wildlife garden out there. Nothing would keep you at all from taking this and starting to look at the plants to go and learning who they are already. We've got plants on here, but we've also got animals. We have 4 biomes, 5 if you count civilization as a biome. And we have 4 biomes on Bouverie Preserve, and one of them is the riparian area, which is filled with aquatic invertebrates. So one of the things that you are going to be doing is you're going to be examining the stream and looking in the cougar pond perhaps, and you'll be using this to identify the critters that you're seeing there. And all of these creatures and all of these plants on these cards are actually indigenous to this area. So if you go to Yellowstone, you'll find things that are pretty close to this, but they're going to be different. This is for here. This makes sense for here, which is different than having like a Western United States field guide, which has a lot of stuff that might not be particularly relevant because we're not in some desert someplace. Newts. Newts are the stars of Bouverie. If you happen to be a 3rd or 4th grader, if you come here, you want to see newts, especially if it's raining. And when I came here, I had never seen a newt in my life. And this guide helps you tell the difference between them. You're going to have classes about that. We're going to be teaching you about how to handle newts. And you don't need to know this right now, but we're going to just be teaching you how to pass a red belly from one person to another, and just the good field handling techniques for protecting these creatures. All of the creatures and all the plants that are in this guide are our most intimate companions, and so we want to treat them with great delicacy. So we're going to be teaching you how to do that with respect and delicacy. So when you're handling these things, you don't hurt anybody. In the fall, especially when it's raining, turns into fungus city. And so we have identification cards here for the different kinds of fungi that you are going to be seeing. The oaks are a big deal. Oh, by the way, the fairy fingers are really cool. Make sure you find some fairy fingers to really look at. The oaks that are here make a really big difference for the Indian populations that were here. So we approach oaks in a couple different ways. The way that oaks were typically named all across the country, for example, in Wisconsin, where I came from, a white oak didn't look white on the outside. A white oak was defined by the people who would cut it down and sell with timber, right? When you're selling lumber or when you're cutting down trees, you're cataloging the trees not by how the leaves look, but that's mostly by what the lumber looks like. So rather than identifying trees by cutting them down, which would be a temporary fix, we have identification guides here that are based on leaves and twigs and acorns. Ferns are a big deal. And we have some really nice, there's a fern poster over there that's really nice. There's quite a few different kinds of fern. Little boys, when I'm hiking, I tell them that the dinosaurs that were here or would have been around here at the time when those ferns were out would have recognized most of them because in a way they're actually living fossils, at least from my opinion. And so knowing ferns and being able to tell the difference between the ferns is kind of handy. And you'll be able to do that. But the names of things are not as important as the relationships between things. When we're out, identifying a flower and knowing the name, for me, with a child, is not as much fun as handing a card to the child and saying, let's figure out what it is, but let's figure it out based on how many petals does it have. Those things are called petals. And how long is that stem? And how does it all fit together with the pictures you're seeing here? And we start teaching the children the notion of how to identify things using a guide. Kids really like scat. When you're out on the trail with your kids, and by the way, a lot of you really like scat too. When I was out, you're going to be, oh, there it is. Okay, so getting down on your hands and knees and smelling scat and poking it with a stick because you never, under any circumstances, ever touch scat with your fingers unless you're wearing gloves because raccoons have some stuff on there that'll be bad for you. Animal scat identification is something that people get really good at, and I'm not really good at it, but I'm learning, and these cards help me to learn. Tracks are a really big deal, especially when rainy season starts. So you're going to see lots and lots of tracks. Isn't it amazing that we have cards even for the tracks, for the little guys and the big guys? You're going to see all of these tracks eventually when you're here. And so you're looking down, you're on your hands and knees looking for some scat, and then all of a sudden you realize you're looking at a track of the animal that made the scat. And you start thinking about the tracking practices that went into understanding the story about how that animal and when that animal and where that animal was and where she left to and where she's gone and when she's coming back. And this card helps you begin to tell that story to yourself and also to share it with your students by asking them questions about it. Spiders. I think from my point of view, the big winner for spiders here are the turret spiders. And it's kind of a magical thing for me. When you find one turret spider, all of a sudden, you start seeing all of them. And it's a kind of shift in perception about how you see things. So that's a basic introduction to the cards. Use them. There's a really good reason to have your nose in these cards all the time. When you're out on the trail and you're looking at oaks or something, it's perfectly okay to stop and pull out your cards and look at a track too. And start getting involved and become aware of what your cards are. If you can use the cards effectively, then your students will be able to use the cards effectively because you'll know how to share.
Thanks, Dave. So I want to say thanks to Bill Bridges, who worked on the map, and Jeannie and Gwen made most of these cards, took a lot of the photos. So these are custom just for you, and a really good learning guide. Whenever we have a class about a topic area for which you have a trail card, spend some time that night before and look and see what's on that trail card. And of course, I mean, it seems obvious, but for most of the taxa, like we have all 3 species of newts here, but we don't have all the spiders, we don't have all the insects, we don't have all the flowering plants, right? So it's scratching the surface, and if you get really interested in reptiles, for example, I don't think we have a reptile card yet. That's on my to-do list, isn't it? We have field guides, and there's a library right here. And that's the next thing I want to tell you about is you're going to have a library card, and it's going to live here. Isn't that nice? The library keeps your library card so it doesn't get lost. It's going to live in this little box in the library. And you'll have access to the library, and you'll come and get your library card out of the box. And then there's a little laptop computer and self-service checkout instructions right by the laptop computer, and you can check out a book. And we have one of those little scanny-doos like they have at the grocery store that scans a little code on the book and scans a little code on your card, and then the book's all checked out. And then when you want to return the book, you just stick it on a shelf where it says, return books here. You don't have to do any reverse of the process, so we'll reshelf the books for you. So the library is going to be another resource, and I encourage you to use it. And if you want to take a moment, if you get here early one day or you want to stay late, you can go peruse the library and look at the stacks and see what we have. And I'm in charge of ordering books for the library, so if there's a new book out that we haven't heard about yet, you can write me a little note, put it in my mailbox, and I'll see if we can buy it for the library. So that's the library, and I hope by next week, all the library cards will be made and in the box. I'll let you know.
There was one question about a person who has her own library collection, I think in her garage, and Bob and Allwood are the people who manage the library here. And there's a culling process that they go through where they take books out and get rid of them and they sell them. So if you have books that you want to donate, and an issue for one person. I think the starting point would be to talk to Julia about it, and she'll get you lined up with the folks that are handling the library side of things.
You can imagine with the primary demographic that we work with, people are in a kind of downsizing time in their life sometimes. So they deliver lots and lots of books here, and the joke we have is that we have this annual buck a book sale where if we're calling the library or people make donations, we have this kind of, you can just get any book you want for $1, not out of there and not off of my bookshelf, but we'll have a spot set up. And so the joke used to be that it's $1 to take a book away, but it's $100 to give us a book if you want to give us a book. Which is only a joke. For the rank and file that aren't interested in California Naturalists, we have 34 minutes together, and you're totally hanging in there. I know it's a long time to sit and listen, and we'll never subject you to this much sitting and listening ever again, we promise. But I wanted to have you walk me through how to access the ACR website behind the scenes so that you can get into the Bouverie volunteer pages and look at the readings, the teacher packet, the docent manual, the slideshows. There's more stuff in there than you can shake a stick at. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the website, and you're going to get that little half sheet that was in your, some of you already have it. There's a little half sheet that was part of your handouts for the day. Chad's got his. Terry's got hers. Everybody got your little half sheet? Okay, so here's the ACR website, and I want everybody to tell me, how do I log in? Ready? What's the first thing I do? Have I already done it? Tell me. Everybody tell me. Go now. Okay, so we're good on number 1, right? What's the next thing that I'm supposed to do?
Enter your username.
Click on login. Where is the login? Is there any indication that helps you figure it out?
It's up in the right down. Right next to the heart.
Right next to the heart. That's nice. When you're a nonprofit, you make your donate button as big as possible so that people will accidentally click on it when they're trying to choose something else. This little tiny thing right here, that's what we want. So log in, and look what happens when we log in. There we are. Okay? What is the next thing we're supposed to do? First and last. So Yvonne Pierce, the executive administrator and the preserve manager at the Martin Griffin Preserve. Martin Griffin was one of the key individuals that helped secure the funds to protect the Martin Griffin Preserve when it was called Audubon Canyon Ranch. So just in case you weren't sure who he is. So Yvonne is going to enter you into the system so that you can enter your first and last name. What do you need to know about entering your first and last name? Is there any other information there that's helpful? Just tell me. Everybody tell me. It's not case sensitive. Yeah.
No space or yes space?
No, yes space. First name, space, last name. I'll write the Wi-Fi password down for you, but I'm not going to tell you what it is right now because the guest password is complicated and I'm not good at doing 2 things at once. Sure. Okay, so here's me, right? What do I do next? Everybody tell me. Everybody tell me. My password. And I have a password, but you're not going to have a password, right? So what are you going to do the first time you log in? How are you going to get in? Everybody tell me. It's the next step. Yeah. Right. And tell me about that password. There's another little piece of information there about that password. Everyone tell me. Tell me, use your mouth. Right? What else? Yes, and then go down to the next line. There's one more thing to know about that password. Sorry, I can't hear now. You can change it if you want, or not. Something like choice.
Are there rules for creating a password?
No. Okay, so this page looks a little confusing, doesn't it? Your page might look different. I have some access in because I'm allowed to edit a few things. What do you do next? You've logged in, you've entered your username, you've entered your password, and then you get in, and it'll say links to your logged in pages below. See that right there? So what's the next step? Everybody tell me. So like this? Am I supposed to go like this? Keep going? Should I keep going? More? Should I go more? Tell me when to stop. Stop, I'm stopping. Look how good you are. You're totally helping me. It's the first time I've ever done this. That's not true, I promise. Okay, so look, the volunteer section. As a volunteer, you're going to have access to the whole volunteer section, but we're Bouverie docents, so we're going to go to the Bouverie section. What does it say? What is the next instruction? Bouverie. Here's the thing, is that people like to say Bouvier, like John F. Kennedy's wife's maiden name, but it's Bouverie, Bouverie, Bouverie. People will stumble over it. Okay, so I'm clicking on that. Is that right? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Okay, good. Then on this site, you will find there's a schedule for this year. There's a class that I taught for advanced training that I just plopped up there. There's some iNaturalist pages, so more flora and fauna. Some similar to your trail cards and some different. You would check those out. You might even want to print those out, fold them up, and put them in your field notebook. The docent manual, you'll get a hard copy of the docent manual, I don't know, in a few weeks after the dust has settled and you're sort of digging yourself out from all this new info. But there's an electronic version here, and it's referenced. You have reading to do to prepare for classroom shadowing and hike shadowing, and that reading is in the docent manual. So if you're a super high achiever, overachiever, and you're already all psyched up and you can't sleep and you want to do more reading, you can look at the docent manual and read the pages about classroom shadowing and hiking that are referenced on the handout that I gave you about classroom shadowing and hiking. You can skip these for now. There's another copy of the trail map, handouts in natural history for hikers. And then these are where your docent training materials are posted, and that's the one for this week. Wendy, the person who works on our website, posted the rest of them, but for whatever reason, and this is maybe something you want to make a note of on that sheet. You have to scroll down to the very bottom right now to see all the docent training materials that are posted for the first few weeks of training. Can you nod if this is making sense to you, because it's after lunch and we're tired and it's hot in here and you've been listening way too much? Is that making sense? So for now, it's mysteriously at the bottom. It's referenced at the top, but unfortunately the only one you can click on is today's, and that's not really going to help you because you already all have those. Yes? Because I sent them to you. And I'm going to send next week's to you also, because I'm not certain when Yvonne is going to get you in there, and I don't want you to wait. So when you're done today and we're finished with our meeting, I'm going to email you about next week before I go home today so that you have all the reading. Question?
So you're saying, so when will they be able to access this? You said she has to put it in before we can do that, right?
I sent her everybody's names and all of your email addresses yesterday when we were full class and we were final. I haven't checked my email today. Yvonne's pretty on it, but you know what I'll do when I know that it's ready? I'll email you, because that's what I do, right? So I'll let you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Will you let me know how they do my last name? Because there's an apostrophe in the name. When you email me,
Right.
tell me what they use for my last name.
Are we not doing it correctly? I know we screwed up the Dedebo's last name. We forgot the X. But how are we doing with you so far? Okay. Yeah. So that's what I sent to her.
Okay.
That's not what I sent to her for you. So the X may be missing. Sorry about that, but I'll fix your name tags. Yeah.
My name. Mine too.
Really? We have a lot of, okay, people's names are spelled wrong. So if your name is spelled wrong, what I'd like you to do at the end of class is come to me with your name tag and tell me what the mistake is. Deal? Okay, great. Any other questions about the website? What's your level of confidence around accessing a website and logging in? Where are we? You want to do it once, right? I thought you could at least direct me. Okay. Yeah.
I have a question about getting, connecting with other people in the class, outside of the class. Will their email address be available to everyone?
Yes. Everyone has, as of today, has signed a photo release and a contact information release, which means that I will make for you a contact list with everybody's name, phone number, email address, and address, physical address, and that'll be emailed to everyone. And if you guys, like the Oakmont crew wants to make a carpool, they can do that. Like, you guys can start to get in touch with each other. Good question. One last thing that's important for you to know is that we're really interested in finding out how effective we are at preparing you for doing this work. So sometime in the next week or so, you're going to get an email from me with a link to a survey, an online survey through SurveyMonkey. And I know everybody loves that so much. And I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, anonymous, about your natural history knowledge, about your comfort being out of doors and working with children. And it's going to be the pre-program survey. So we're going to choose a bunch of learner outcomes and ask you to assess yourself where you are right now, anonymously. And then at the very end of training, we're going to send you something that's almost exactly the same. And we want you to do that self-assessment at the end. One thing that's going to be added at the end is we're going to include the names of the instructors. We'd love to know if you felt like they were effective and what was most useful, so that'll get added in. And then, after you've worked your spring season, we're going to send you that evaluation again. So, where are you now? Where are you in February? And then where are you at the end of May? And that's going to give us some really good, pardon me for saying, metrics on how we're doing with this training program, and I'm happy to report them back to you. And just so you know, we could have made you suffer more. There used to be a weekly evaluation about every single class, and it was almost exactly the same. And by the end of the season, like the same 7 people were doing it, and they just said, awesome, 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 great, thank you so much, over with, right? And that's not that helpful. So what we want to know is, are we moving the needle? And where could we strengthen things up a little bit. So believe me, I've gone to many trainings. I hate evaluations as much as the next person, but we'll make it worthwhile, and your participation is going to strengthen the program for the next group of trainees that come through. So are you willing? Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And is Jeannie around?
She is.
Okay. Here's the next thing that we're gonna do, is we're gonna tell you about next week, what's happening next week, and also kind of what do you need to be prepared for every time that you come. So Jeannie, if you could tell us a little bit about how next week's gonna go. The Quercus choir will be here first thing in the morning. I know that. And we'll do a little wrap up about 1:45, and the rest of the time you're going to be in Jeannie and Jen's hands in 2 groups. So we'll figure that out. So Jeannie's going to tell you about next week.
I'll just tell, let you know that next week is the Plant Communities and Habitats class, and we are going to try to hike you through all of them. So that means we're going to try to spend most of the day on the trail. So according to the week out weather forecast, it's only going to be 80 degrees. However, I should tell you that part of the trail, we're going to go up into the Chaparral region, which is up higher up on the ridge. And depending on if you're up there in the morning or the afternoon, it can get hot. So you want to bring lots of water, wear sun protective clothing, and bring a hat, especially. And then we ask always that we try to model the way we want the kids to dress. So it's a good idea to get in the habit of not wearing shorts, and it's a good safety thing to not wear shorts. And yeah, so we're going to be, I'll introduce you to my coworker Jennifer Fox, who did her master's work on chaparral. So yeah, it's going to be mostly outside.
I would recommend, if your water bottle is this big, I would bring 2. Because you're going to be out in the field for a number of hours, you're going to be moving and it's going to be warm. And a quick energy intensive lunch would be good too. Usually lunches are not feeling super long in the field.
Yeah, our lunch breaks in the field usually are about 20 minutes. So
something calorie dense that's easy to eat. Thanks. You do your 2 classroom shadowing through Zoom Tight and your 2 hike shadowing, and those have to take place in October and November because there won't be another opportunity to do it before graduation happens, because the spring season starts after graduation. So everybody tell me, when do you have to do your hike and classroom shadowing? October. Yes. You also are going to learn how to use the slideshow. So that's another little wrinkle in the training. You'll learn how to use the slideshow. I'll tell you more about that later. You're going to learn how to present one classroom kit. There are these lessons that are about 12 to 15 minutes long, and they come in a little box. And when you go do a classroom visit, you'll see that the docents present several of those kits, and the children rotate around and do a round robin. So you're going to fall in love with one of those and adopt it and learn how to do it. We're also asking you to get your standard first aid, AED, and CPR certification by graduation. That shouldn't be news to anyone really, because I think we told you about that. And that's something you do for yourself. We don't provide that training for you. You go out in the world and you get that training through Red Cross or American Heart Association or your local police or fire department. They often do it. If you need help sourcing that, I'll help you. What the Red Cross does these days is that you do your classroom work online in your own time, and once you've completed that and passed it, you go into their office for about 2.5 to 3 hours of practice with one of those Recessa Annies, and they teach you how to bandage and how to dislodge a blocked airway. So those are your requirements during training. After training, we ask trainees to work 4 consecutive seasons, and your responsibilities are about 1 gig a week. So 4 consecutive seasons. You train in February. Starting in late February, early March, you work your first spring. Then we're closed in the summer. Then you work in the fall. And then you work your second spring. And then you work your fall. So that's your requirement. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yes?
What does 1 gig per week mean?
It could be doing a classroom visit and or a hike. So you might do a classroom visit and a hike. You might just do a classroom visit, or you might just do a hike. Yes, yes.
You're saying per week.
It averages out per week, but you get to fill out a form that tells us when you're having fabulous vacations or you're traveling, and we fit it in to your schedule. And the spring season is March, April, and about half of May. And the fall season is October and November up to Thanksgiving. So it's 5 months out of the year, about 1 gig a week, according to your availability, with plenty of substitutes through our listserv, available if you need to cancel. Yes, yes.
What happens after those 2 years? Are you kicked off the force?
We have docents who've been serving here for more than 40 years now. There are some docents who went through the first training class when David Bouverie was here. So we hope that you love it here and decide to continue to be involved for the duration.
As that base, as the alumni base grows and you get more and more docents, does that mean that you just not able to work as often as you're fulfilling, or do you just increase the number of kids that come out of your classes?
No, because people move away or they get involved in other things. But the attrition rate and the recruitment rate really balance out pretty well, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
My question is, when you do classroom shadowing, does that necessarily mean to match up with the trail shadowing in the same group?
No.
Separate?
Yeah, we can't make it that complicated because the season's pretty short. Any other questions? 1, 2, 3.
Okay, statement rather than a question.
Okay.
Which is, what Julie is talking about is minimum. And I would encourage you to, when you meet a docent or you hear about a docent who has a particular technique or an interest that you would like to watch, to sign up to shadow them. You can do more than 2 shadowings. And I would encourage you to do that, because the more you shadow, the more you learn, the more options you have. So that's all.
Yeah, no, there's no penalty for doing extra. And there was, sorry, hang on. There,
I did have this. I just
1,
want
2, and 3.
I just want to clarify, because
Yep.
it sounds like 2 different things you said. When you're shadowing, you have to do 2 classroom and 2 hikes.
Yep.
They don't have to be linked.
They don't have to be linked. They might be linked, but they don't have to be linked.
Because that just seems like that could be hard to schedule.
It would be really hard to schedule, and there's already enough moving parts.
Right.
Yes.
I'm just looking around, we have about 20 to 30 docents in training, and there's only 2 months of classes.
There's 43 classes coming, and we're going to let 3 of you shadow each classroom visit. More people can shadow the hikes because there will probably be more hiking groups. So I love that you're thinking that specifically. It's awesome. And this will it'll work out. The most important thing is to know it does have to happen in October and November. We had a docent go through training who thought that she just had all the time in the world to do it, and so she didn't do it in the fall, not realizing that the spring hiking season started after graduation. So you're way ahead of the game.
So we're going to have to sign up, or are you going to sign?
We're going to have you sign up. It has to be according to your availability, and those details will be revealed, but not today. Because your head's probably about ready to explode. Pam, you're good? Okay. Any questions on your sheets that didn't get answered today, or pressing questions? Yeah.
As far as the calling 911 and such, my cell phone doesn't work down where we're taking the tickets recently. So what's our availability to research for something besides this one?
What's our availability to?
Cell phones or other things that we can take with us if ours are out of
We use cell phones and whistles. That's our method. We're going to go through the nuts and bolts of our health and safety procedures in great detail. And until then, you're going to be with so many people who know their way around here that you're just going to have people coming out your ears. So for now, you're going to be good and safe. But before you get launched into the field, all of that stuff will be covered, and you'll get to ask as many questions as you want. Yeah. Wake everyone up. Yeah! Does this look familiar?
Yes. I didn't know anything.
So, in the back here, you can hear my voice say, in the back of your reading assignment was your first homework assignment, and it was this bioregional quiz. And I'm going to give this back to you at the very, I'm not going to collect it, I'm going to put this back in your attention at the end of class. Because, we move around kind of in a pod life. Right? We get in our little mobile wheeled pods and we drive to this place, we drive that place, and we have air conditioning and our sound system, and then we go home into our houses and we have our electronic devices. And it feels kind of like we're separate from the natural world, like it's just a nice place to visit, but we don't really live there. And I worked with this super cute little 6th grader who he referred to Mother Nature as Mama Nene. And he just would say Mama Nene's in charge. Like Mama Nene is in charge. So even when we're kind of being our little pod people, Mama Nene is Mama Nene is relevant. Every moment of every day, every single thing that we do. And to kind of break down that separation, I thought we could all start getting an idea of that. But we know when the last full moon happened, right? That's nice. Huge, right? But you might not know 5 native plants that grow within a mile of where you're living right now. You might know 100, right? But you might not know 5. And we all have to start somewhere, right? And even those of us who've been involved in this work for decades, I'm going to tell you this morning, like, oh my gosh, I gotta go to the training and start, and I have all these things, and it's all in my head, and I'm getting in my car, and I'm driving down the road, and I'm listening to a song, and I hope it's feeling inspirational so that I can come across as inspirational when I'm talking to all of the new trainees. And I'm driving down, and I'm going a little too fast, and I'm going down Hyde Road, and there's like 5 million things in my head, and right across the road is a doe and a fawn, right? And the fawn looks up at me just like, whoa, right? So I just stopped. I was just like, come on. Like, I'm coming to help lead this training. I'm just barreling through the world, right? Like, let's run over a fawn on our way. I didn't get that close. But what I want to say is, like, the process of connecting can be challenging. Like, I notice sometimes when I'm disconnected, and I have a lot of empathy for all of us. We're these little furry mammals going through this super hyper-stimulating, complicated world. And just for all of us to take a moment and be on the land and open to what's showing up and learn about it, have some empathy for yourselves. Have some empathy. We got your back on this one. No one's judging you. We don't have a place from which to judge. We were talking about humility during the break. I was talking about humility with Carrie, and who else was I talking about humility with? And humility comes from the word
humus, which
Humus?
means earth.
Which means earth.
So it's about, we were talking about getting knocked down by life. When you hit the ground, it's kind of like where you belong. And I also want to point out that, humility and being humble is not the same as humiliation.
No.
At all. In fact, it's an opening.
Yeah. So love yourself for where you are. Know that you're in a community of people who are supporting you. We're going to go on this amazing journey together. Getting more connected ourselves. Yes, of course. And so I think the last thing that I want to say is that sometimes people who are really earth connected, nature connected, are also pretty tender-hearted. And if you pay too much attention to what passes for the news these days, it can be immobilizing, depressing, deer in the headlights freak out. So I'm going to suggest that you dial back, while you're in this class, dial back your news exposure some and dial up your Mama Nene exposure some. To see if you can spend as much time paying attention to what's going on in the natural world or more as you do to what's going on with 45 on his way out. And some days, like what, there's 40 months left at the most.
Deep breath.
And sometimes we carry what's going on with a lot of weight on our shoulders. And I think it's okay to be a sensitive person because I think that opens us up to a lot. And I want to remind you that you belong, in the words of Mary Oliver. If you'll just put down whatever you can, literally and figuratively, if you feel like closing your eyes and just taking these words. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Welcome to the Bouverie family, dear ones. We're so glad you're here. We're so glad you're here.